Welcome, Derek Scott. You're an associate professor and director of bioinformatics in the Biology Sciences Department at Delaware State University. That's a huge title. What does your department engage in? Mostly research, or do you teach?
So it's a mix of both. Funny you mentioned it. We're primarily structured as a teaching institution, but in the past few decades, we've really been moving towards that research status. And so we're a teaching first institute, but we have a really big emphasis on research as well. And so as you can imagine, I do a little bit of both, teaching and research.
Now, I see that you went to Virginia State and then Virginia Tech. They call that UD South, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you have a wife who is also in biology, or is she an MD?
She's in biology. She's her PhD is in biomedical sciences, and she's the director of the forensics program at Delaware State University.
Wow. And three children. That keeps you busy, huh?
Yes, it does. In about 6 weeks, they'll be 8, 6, and 4. So they're a handful.
I was just going to say, you really have your hands full. So, with all of that going on, talk about the initiative, the testing initiative, and how it evolved.
um, that's a great question. It really evolved back when everything like first was shutting down. Essentially, it got to a point where we were kind of just holed up in our houses and we really weren't doing anything. Like campus closed, research closed, everything just stopped. And, kind of in that moment, I had an idea. I was telling my wife, I was like, man, I feel like we should be doing more. We have the capabilities. And at that point, coronavirus testing wasn't widespread as much as it is now. And even now, we need more. And so I said, well, how about we do our own testing? We could really help the community out, help the school out. And then I kind of just did it as a pipe dream, but my wife was like, no, you should really write a proposal, and just kind of see what happens. And so from there, I wrote the proposal. And at that point, I knew it would cost a lot of money to fund it. So people were supportive of it. We just didn't have the money at that time. And that's kind of really where the seed was planted.
Wonderful. And how did you choose the saliva test, which most people prefer? I've actually been through that line multiple times that Newcastle County runs, and it sure is quick and easy. But why that test?
So it was once we really got going, and we could talk about it in a second, how Newcastle County became involved. But the really big things that we wanted to kind of circumvent was people didn't like doing the nasal swabs, and the nasal swabs are kind of intrusive, and people just didn't like really doing them. And so we had problems with people not being in compliance because they just didn't want to do the nasal swab test. Another thing was we want to speed up how fast we were getting results back. With the company that we were using, it could take 2 to 3 days to get your results back. And then also the cost. We want a decrease in cost. And so with some of our consultants down at DLS in Alabama, we figured out that the saliva direct method was basically pioneered by Yale University. And it was just simply put saliva into a small test tube. You don't need any buffers, any reagents. And then from there, you can do the test. And one good thing about it as well is that it avoids an RNA extraction step, which is costly and time consuming. So we're able to do it for cheaper and faster with just saliva in a small tube that we don't even really need all these extra buffers, which decrease costs and also increase turnaround time.
It's wonderful to know. I'm so glad we have smart people on this case working here in Delaware. Talk about Newcastle County now. I know Matt Meyer, I've had him on, has been out in front on this for quite some time. How did you guys connect?
So yeah, definitely all props to Matt Myers. He's really creative in how he solves problems, and it was kind of a case where our interests aligned. So before we were doing our own testing, Testing for America was able to help us facilitate testing our campus, which everyone gets tested twice a week. And then through Testing for America, they had connection with Matt Meyer, and then that's kind of how the introduction was made. And so they had the idea where the county was kind of like us. They wanted to do testing cheaper and faster, And we wanted to do the same thing. And then once we realized that our interests were aligned, that's when we were able to figure out that CARES Act money was available to actually build this lab. And then from there, it was really kind of luck favors the prepared. When the opportunity came, since I was already working on that proposal for as far back as March, we really were able to hit the ground running because we already had a lot of the things already worked out from when I first wrote the proposal. And so it was good timing, good luck, and then everything kind of worked out from there.
That's great. That's when things are meant to be. Have you been able to engage your biology students in any of this real world work?
Oh yeah, so we couldn't do it without our students. So even when we do the sample collection on campus in Dover, a lot of times last semester our students are the ones that are running the setup there. So you come and you give your samples, you get scanned in and do everything. Our student population in our public health with Dr. Chris Mason was really instrumental in making that happen. And then here on the laboratory side, Delaware State really is a pipeline for talent. And so me being a professor and having students working in the past, I already knew a lot of qualified students who could actually work in the lab. So at this point, all of our technicians, our lab techs, are former students of mine who I know their work ethic. I know they know the techniques because I taught the techniques in my lab while they were students. And so they're alumni, but former Hornets, and I won't even say former, always Hornets. And so, yeah, we were definitely able to tap into that to get our lab staffed.
That's fantastic. Hornets are near and dear to my heart, of course, having been down there and run a program at one time. What a terrific resume credit, I would think, for these young professionals. Are some of them grad students, or are they all post-grad?
So all of them are post-grad except for one. One of my current graduate students, she actually is working here as well. She's doing research where we have all this capability and technology in this lab right now, where we're looking to partner with the CDC and the state lab to start sequencing coronavirus strains to try to find those different variants here in Delaware, like the South African variant, the Brazil variant, and she's working on that project. So she's here helping with testing and also doing the sequencing efforts. So she's a graduate student, and we have postgrads, grad students. It's really a team effort.
Wow. And I know these interviews are brief, so I'd like to talk much longer, but can you talk about the process from the collection of the sample till you're able to deliver a result? It's fast.
Oh yeah, so right now we're doing all the student athletes at Delaware State. And starting this week, we're looking at doing the rest of the campus and then opening up to Newcastle County and other citizens probably sometime in March or later on in the spring. So right now, we're probably doing about 500 or so, 500 to 600 a day. And for instance, a sample, I just brought a case of samples in here at 11. We'll probably get those reported out to our students by 2 o'clock, probably a little bit before that. And so what we really want to focus on is as we scale up, making sure we can keep to that window where if we get the samples early enough in the day, we can do within 24-hour turnaround. But if we get them in the morning, we can get those out by early afternoon.
That's amazing. That's almost on the spot testing. What are the protocols, though, for the safety of the lab technicians and yourself?
So we have a fume hood biological safety cabinet. So every time we have the samples, we bring those in. Everything goes inside the hood. And then we have a lot of disinfectants and cleaners. We have personal protective equipment, gowns. We have gloves, masks, things of that nature, eye protection. And so they're pretty protected once they get in. But to be honest, unless you like drinking the samples or something, it's pretty safe to handle for the most part, especially with everything being inside the biological safety cabinets and everything being cleaned as often as we do it. It's a pretty safe process.
Dr. Derek Scott, what a fantastic initiative. Thank you for sharing. So proud of DSU and
Go Hornets.
Wish you, go Hornets, the very best of luck. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. I appreciate it.